The paper we're diving into today is the Cerberus, Parental Licensing and the Equalization of Opportunity by Sidney Madison Prescott, MBA. I have to say, just from the title, was expecting something about Greek mythology, but no, this is a deep and pretty provocative look at whether parenting should be regulated through some kind of licensing, like driving or practicing medicine.
Yeah, and honestly, I love that comparison, right? Parenting is something anybody can do. There's no prerequisite course, no driver's test, no background check required. But if you want to cut hair or drive a forklift, the state steps in. Prescott's whole argument is, well, since parenting can cause serious harm, especially to kids who have basically zero say in whose care they're put into, shouldn't we be regulating that at least as much as, say, hairdressing?
And that's the core question she's taking from Hugh LaFollette's earlier work, which she really expands. Basically, is it morally justified or even required for the state to create a licensing system for prospective parents? Under what conditions does the state have not just the permission, but the obligation to interfere in this family sphere? And how does that connect to kids' moral status and social justice?
Right, and she leans heavily on the idea that children are actually morally equal to adults, even though that's not how we tend to treat kids, institutionally or legally. Our default idea is that parents are sovereign, the family unit is private, and the state should back off unless things go really haywire. Prescott's like, wait, that's actually a big part of the problem, because it means a huge amount of child abuse and neglect slips through the cracks.
Exactly. She points out that statistics on child abuse are kind of horrifying. Millions of confirmed cases in the U.S. alone, every year. And this part really struck me. There's clinical evidence that abuse in childhood doesn't just harm individual lives, it also spills out into all of society, with a higher risk of criminal behavior, health problems, economic problems. So the harms are not just private.
And the analogy to professional licensing is actually pretty sharp. Prescott says, society already requires people who want to work with vulnerable people, like doctors or teachers, to meet standards, pass tests, for roughly the same reason, to limit risk. So why not require parenting licenses? Given the evidence of harm, fair equality of opportunity is at stake.
Here's where she gets philosophical. She utilizes John Stuart Mill's harm principle, which says the state is justified in interfering with individual liberty to prevent harm to others. Kids, being extremely vulnerable and not able to consent, are a textbook case. It's not about punishing bad parents. It's about prevention, about minimizing the significant, predictable risks of harm.
You know, I always find it wild that you need more paperwork to adopt a cat than to have a child. Just putting that out there.
Ha! I mean, it's almost darkly funny, but it's true. But to get back on track, Prescott goes further and connects this to Rawlsian political theory. Basically, the idea that equal opportunity shouldn't depend on accidents of birth. She says the family, without regulation, tends to entrench disadvantage. If you want justice, you have to intervene earlier, not just try to fix things later with school vouchers and scholarships.
But I guess, if I could play devil's advocate, do you think any licensing program could work fairly, though? Like, wouldn't it just end up being, discriminatory against poor people or minorities? Bureaucracies aren't exactly known for their sensitivity.
Prescott is aware of that pushback. She's clear. To even be worth trying, this kind of licensing would have to be really, really carefully designed, focused on clear evidence of likely harm, with checks and balances for bias. She also suggests incentives, like tax benefits, to encourage voluntary participation, not just punish people.
It just raises so many questions. But I think one thing the paper gets across, maybe more than offering a blueprint for policy, is that not talking about these risks is itself a choice, and not a neutral one. If the evidence says parenting can cause real harm, that becomes something society is responsible for, not just families behind closed doors.
Yeah, and frankly, it's a nudge for all of us to reflect. Are our current institutions really protecting children? Or just the status quo? I mean, sometimes philosophy is about asking the uncomfortable questions, not always handing down final answers.
I totally agree. Although, to be honest, if there was a written test on how to change a diaper at 3 in the morning, I probably would have failed that twice over.
Oh, me too, no doubt. Maybe parental licensing would have made me a little more prepared. Or maybe just more aware of how little anyone really is. Anyway, fascinating stuff.
Definitely. Big, open-ended issues, but ones that matter. Let's keep questioning, right?